to the Postgame on Michael Brooks with the gentlemen of TMBS, Matt Leck and David Griscom. David Slavic pitching me Discord questions. I miss my buddy Waz. It's like when a friend comes over for a play date. You remember when we would do a Majority Report, and I would do a Friday, or a Monday rather.
Michael Mondays used to be called.
Michael Mondays, that was the thing, and like, you know, I would do a fair amount of like, you know, the kind of stuff that I do generally now in Majority Report, which is try to make it more globally oriented because it's a little bit more my focus, and, you know, complementary with the rest of the show. But we would definitely have those like, you know, like, let's have Waz. I want to have one. I would. It would usually be like maybe like hanging out on a Friday night and just be like, hey, dude, will you come in on Monday? And it totally felt like that was the peak. Like, dad's gone. Let's have a friend over.
People like those kind of shows.
Definitely.
Like when you have actual rapport with somebody and not just, you know, you read their pieces.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's way more. As a podcast listener, I was always a fan of hangout pods. Where it's, I mean, that's what a lot of the left-wing podcasts that are getting popular about now, right? Like Chapo is just like a hangout pod.
Yeah.
A lot of the comedy ones are just people hanging out. Yeah.
We've got the hangout dynamic going on here, and that's a test of crew basically. Rapport.
Yeah, it doesn't always work.
Doesn't always work. That's what I say. You can't be crew. Doesn't always work. You're calling from a 347 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Last post game of 2018. 347. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Hey guys, what's up?
Hey.
I'm a little sad that I wasn't able to get a chance to talk to Wozni.
Huh?
I had some choice words for him, but I'm basically calling in about TPS.
What's TPS?
Temporary protected status for Haitians.
Oh, okay. What? Can you tell me your name and where you're calling from really quick?
Oh, DJ. I'm calling from Queens.
Okay. Tell me what's going on. Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so basically, one of the big things that's been happening in the new Trump era and stuff like that is basically they've made a lot of changes, and they've created a kind of a state of fear for like immigrants and whatnot. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I have a family member. He's been living here for 11 years. He's been working, sending money back to Haiti for support. His English speaking ability isn't strong. He's basically a nice, good-natured person.
Sure.
He's been using TPS card as his main form of identification. So he went to Chase to make a withdrawal. They asked him for identification. He presents his TPS card, standard operating procedure. Mm-hmm. They examined his card, and then suddenly they tried to confiscate it and seize his account because they misread at Chase, because they misread that it had expired. He was so like completely and utterly freaked out that he had to ask me to be added to his account in case like something happens to him or he gets picked up,
right,
that he can make sure that his money still makes it to his wife and his kids, right?
Right.
TPS for Haitians is going to expire basically at the end of July 2019, and now we have to make all these plans for what are his options for a bank. We have to, you know, we're concerned and have to check in that he's still here. It's kind of all these different things that, you know, we didn't have to worry about before, but now suddenly are complete and are these issues.
Right.
And it's only him, but, you know, I have other members of my family, some that perhaps may have overstayed a visa
Sure.
for 20 years or so, or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's kind of really getting scary. Their objective is to terrorize immigrants, and people are kind of just going along with it. Like, why there's no advantage to the person at the bank of why they would try to confiscate his card, right? Like, but now they're making it so that immigrants who may not be legal, he's legal in this case, but just because they thought they misread that his card was expired, they tried to seize his money and take his card and call the police.
It's a disgusting. I've heard stories similar to that, and the removal of temporary protective status for Haitians here is, I mean, it's something that has gotten more attention in New York because of the Haitian community here, but it's definitely a major part, an integral part of this war on immigrants. This, no doubt. I mean, look, a strategic effort to ethnically engineer the country. There's also Haitians, I'm sure you know, that are also actually implicated by the militarization and the border crisis as well. And so all I can tell you is, sometimes, obviously, I mean, I've covered Haiti a bit on this show, and sometimes I've talked about certain aspects of the Haitian community in the United States with Waz. But in the new year, both in terms of illicit histories and working on getting guests. See, part of the tricky thing is like it just so happens to be like certain areas where like there's a synergy point between things that I know a fair amount about and then I have a good sense of the right guests to get. And then there's other areas where I'm a little bit slower on them because I'm learning more and I need to find the right guests. So I definitely want to do a lot more China coverage as an example. And there's, some of the barriers to that are finding the right people. So with Haiti specifically, I've been, and I have some experience around Haiti, and I've been mugging up on it in terms of my reading and looking for the kind of right networks to plug into and broad Haitian coverage, both in terms of this specific issue you're talking about and the humanitarian assault in the United States in the context of the war on immigrants. We're going to increase our coverage of, and more broadly, illicit histories of, Jean Bertrand Aristide, the CIA and the Duvaliers, this type of thing. Look forward to that in 2019.
Well, I really appreciate. Well, one thing I just want to add is actually two things. One, AJ Plus kind of did a short doc on Haitians who originally tried to cross at the border, but then got stuck at the border and are now living in Mexico. So that there's some stuff like that out there. And I also wanted to say, like, I really appreciate like your show and your analysis and like from where you kind of come, like how you approach things. I'm appreciative of the fact that you kind of grew up with hardship, so that's allowed you to kind of be able to have compassion for those who are far more vulnerable, and you can kind of see that. Sorry, not sorry on that, because I'm really appreciative.
That's good.
There's
no, I mean, look, for whatever reason, there's no doubt that, I mean, and I love that phrase. I'm not saying I'm a believer, but I love that Bodega Boys, God's working on all of us, because I think when you've had any type of experience, it opens your empathy, and then it also realizes that there's always room for lots of improvement and growth. And part of how you do that is by, just being around as many different situations as possible, basically. So I appreciate those words a lot. I thank you for calling. I hope you will again in the new year. Do you want me to relay the choice words that you had to Waz? Because I will be seeing Waz soon, and I'd be happy to tell him.
You wouldn't understand them.
Okay. I see that type of choice
Yeah,
word. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
So I'll wait till the next time that he's on. But really, thank you for everything that you do, and I'll probably see you in February.
Excellent. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much, my friend.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
That sort of thing about this doesn't make sense economically, this racism is something that I've noticed too. And when, you come at this from a Marxist direction or whatever, there is a tendency to reduce things to, well, this is deep down, if you look close enough, this is serving some sort of economic agenda. And that's what demystifies it. But I think there are just racists in power, right? And they want to have a white country.
I think that yes. I mean, the simple answer is I agree with you. And then I think I think Gramsci really identified something that's real, which is that even if the core engine is economic, there are these cultural narratives and institutions that correlate with it and take on lives and trajectories of their own. And then I also think there's, I think the other thing that's extremely disturbing is the intuition among some that in order to perpetuate certain types of privilege in a depreciating economic environment, you need to really reform and reaffirm hierarchies. But look, I think, my read I think the Marxist read that's powerful is it helps you see the interplay between all of these things. It's not a question of reducing it, I think, if we're doing it right. And I think sometimes, I think where I sympathize is I think that like David Harvey had this great line where he was essentially saying, like, we know that the world isn't just base and superstructure, right? Like that's just not a fully tenable view to just say that all of the cultural institutions and everything, whether it's, racism or law or, marriage, whatever, like it's not all just a byproduct of economics. We know that. However, particularly in a U.S. context, it's helpful to adopt that methodology at times because we're so economically illiterate and we so don't talk about class and we so don't have any economic analysis. So I sympathize with it. But I think, people who want to reduce these things to one strain. I mean, look, the last thing I'll say, it's another great concept in Marxism, over-determination.
I mean, I'd add that
integral analysis.
Those racists, I think, that are making decisions of power, I think economics explains why they develop those racist ideas in generally. But I think, like, when you talk about the actual ongoing policies, right? Like, it's not meant to. A lot of this isn't meant to for somebody's bottom line.
It's its own self-propelling organic ideology. And I agree with that.
And it's also not always something that's directly connected to somebody's bottom line, so crassly. I mean, a lot of these questions really are questions about power, and power is something that's very important for capitalists. So it's not always going to be a question like, oh, I'm being able to steal some money from people. It's more keeping people afraid from using resources that are available to them, organizing together, being a part of a community that's, is like much more larger than themselves. These kind of things there's like very much want to be disrupted. And that's how you can use these kind of bigotries or racism or sexism, etc., to really, further your class power. And it's something that, I think so many people get just so confused on this. And it's really unfortunate when people start talking about how like economics solves everything. And even Marx was very explicit about this, even in Capital. He says, this isn't and he's just talking, specifically about commodity form or like how business relations works. He's like, this is not the way that it's going to happen every single time. But this is sort of, the law of averages. This is how we're going to look at things totally. We use the abstraction so that we can understand the system, right? Why do things flow a certain way? Why does this happen this way? And thinking about it like that is a lot stronger than just trying to say like, okay, well, let's figure out, what the balance sheet on, on this kind of racism.
In a weird way, not to be too hard on these people who do that, but some of what people call quote unquote crude, like, there's a very weird synergy between a Soviet project that occurred later on to make it, quote unquote, scientific and reduce Marx to some type of like linear system, which I think one of the brilliant aspects of Marx is it isn't a linear system. It's a dynamic system. It's about contradiction. Literally, dialectic is about contradictions and interplays. It's not teleological. I mean, it is developmental, but it's not inevitable and it's not linear. So there was this effort among some to make it a purely like, scientific, quantitative, linear thing. And then there were, the sort of people, the same way people bastardized Marxism in the United States, to say it was a totalitarian, anti-human, anti-humanistic philosophy when nothing could be further from the truth. So there's a problematic synergy there. I also just want to add one other thing to the table. I think a distinction I'd like to start seeing people make that's also unfortunately getting reduced is it's one, like when I criticize call out culture, Vampire Castle, essentialism. Okay, I think that these ways of discourse, politics, and analysis are everywhere from fatally flawed, intellectually incoherent, and emotionally toxic. And that does not for a second mean that systemic work on racism or gender or anything else isn't urgent, necessary, and integral to the project. I'm critiquing modes of politics and analysis, not the issues that they're dealing with. And a lot of problems that are rising right now is that people have even at times taken correct critiques and then they've blown them out to, well, this is how we're not like, talking about an issue that does have to do with race, you can't do anymore because you're playing into essentialism or something. It's not at all the point. It's a different thing. We have to be holistic. We have to be dynamic. We have to look at all the variables. The question is doing each of them in the most intelligent, strategic, ethical way possible.
Yeah, well, if I could, I'm just going to push back a little bit, and I don't think that you meant it specifically, but the question about scientific Marxism was actually, this is what overdeterminism, that comes from Althusser primarily, who's really developed the concept of overdeterminism, and he was very much an advocate of scientific Marxism. And I think it gets conflated a lot with what people are, which I feel like you're critiquing there, is like deterministic Marxism.
Okay, that's definitely what I'm critiquing. So if the terminology...
I actually wanted to make a point about scientific Marxism, because it's something I think it's a term that freaks people out, because like, oh, certainty, all this stuff. Like what scientific Marxism means is it's like, so for example, using the term proletariat to describe somebody who is in a very specific relation to capital and to labor gives you a deeper understanding not only of their relation to capitalists, it gives them a specific understanding of their relation to the commodity, it gives specific relation to them in history, versus a term like oppressed people. Now, oppressed people can be very descriptive, and it can move people, but it doesn't give you a stronger understanding of the concept or of the social relation. In the same way as in science, you can read a great poem about water, right? But really understanding like deep down, like the molecular structure is going to give you a better understanding. And it doesn't mean that one is more important necessarily than the other, right? At the end of the day, but it's like the scientific understanding of Marxism is sort of the goal of the social science of Marxism, which is very different from the deterministic Marxism, which is where you have the people, for example, in the Soviet Union. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a really hilarious story of a party member. They were trying to build a subway tunnel underneath the city, and there was a lot of rocks underneath it. And he started talking about how the rocks were counter-revolutionary.
Right. So forgive me my lapse in terms. I mean, I've heard.
No, I don't think that you're even a lamp. I think it's just something that people just
but that's
generally don't.
Right.
Don't
so
think
that's
about.
What we need to reject. Not scientific in the sense you're using it, but deterministic. Or again, I really like the idea of rejecting a linear view, because when you read Marx or you read good Marxist theory, and you even can just dialectics, unfortunately, I mean, it's kind of, it's an overused academic jargony word, but the idea that you're studying contradictions, that you're looking for synthesis that works is so intellectually liberating, and it actually allows for the type of thinking that, it's like, it allows you to actually, because like, this is the right move now, this is the wrong move now. Like, you're dealing with conditions, and your ethical commitments are rooted in something much deeper than some type of like silly libertarian first principles nonsense. But then intellectually, you're dealing with the world as like an adult, and you're dealing with the inevitable contradictions, confusions, and difficulties that arise. And Marxism, the great irony of reading Capital is that it's the opposite of its brand.
Yeah, well, it's
opening.
And it's one of these things I think is really important also to mention is that, exactly, it's not linear. And, you know, too many people fall into the trap of historicism, right? Where they start talking about, that's actually a very liberal view, is to think about the world like the world is always progressing. You know, actually sometimes it really regresses very quickly. You know, that's something that's the 18th Brumaire of, you know, Louis Napoleon. Like that's something that's like very much like you have a revolution in France and then it falls back into dictatorship. So this idea that like, oh, things are always just getting better is not a materialist way to look at the world. And it's something that, you know, very much is, you know, it's just one of those things that's unfortunate that just gets attached to Marxism because it's just a part of the way that a lot of people think. It's something that we have to break from.
Right. I agree entirely. It's a great little primer here. All right, we're going to take one more call, and then we're going to get to some sounds. You're calling from a 478 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Michael, this is Jeff in Georgia. Good evening.
Good evening, Jeff from Georgia. How you doing, Paisan? What's going on?
I'm doing okay, man. Jingle bells, Batman smells because he's a billionaire. Happy final show of the year, everybody. I'm so happy to be a part of this. Hey, listen, man, I'm an extremely high IQ individual. I'm not a dirty honky from the middle of the country. I'd say if I had a Beyonce, it's probably like Willie Nelson. So just to clear up any confusion there, the walls around.
Wow.
But,
coming out strong.
yeah, it would
Jeff.
break my heart. Can you imagine if Willie Nelson came out and was like, "Y'all, smoking weed's not good no more. We cut that out, make it illegal."
I think one of the things that I know it's a very crazy time, but I think you could be confident that that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. Thank the Lord. Hey, man, I want to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories that come up on the show a little bit. Not any theories necessarily in particular. Just to me, they're kind of a sort of growl of a suppressed people in part. I know lots of people who into conspiracy theories. You know, they speak to something real, even if they are all or nearly all bunk, I think.
Yep.
Which is a suspicion, you know, that established channels of information just aren't reliable. And, you know, they kind of are in some ways.
Right.
You know, the right wing, of course, creates its own entire fictional universe they're cultivating and world building on. It make J.R.R. Tolkien wet his pants world building over there, man. And the left wing cable television, such as it is, you know, it's still got toothpaste dick pills to sell, right? So their critique's always going to lack that class analysis, that socialist pizzazz, right? And in the politics of our times, you know, it kind of bums me out. These people, the place, you know, I think some of these people are at least curious enough about the world to question, receive wisdom, which I think is generally good. But they find these rabbit holes, and I think those holes dug specifically for them sometimes, you know, by a bunch of grifters, carnival barkers. I just wonder what you have to say about that, man.
Let Matt talk about that for a second. We've actually talked about this on the show at Corey Pine. We did this because from the Adam Curtis documentary, but specifically CIA and UFO disinformation.
I mean, they're always a lot of these conspiracies. Like, I used to be in the intelligence community, and I've got an inside track to this. It's like, or are you just fucking with people with using your credentials and like putting them down rabbit holes? And like maybe they appreciate it because I mean, I always think that basically fascists want to waste your time. So if they can have you responding to bullshit or wasting your time trying to learn about bullshit to respond to, then they're winning. They don't really care about like actually advancing anything. It's just a run out the clock scenario. And when climate change and you know, things like this are on, they got an advantage in that regard.
Exactly. Jeff, thank you so much for being a part of it, my friend. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Can't wait to see you in February, my brother.
See you in February, brother. Awesome. Left is best. All right. Well, speaking of conspiracy theories or not conspiracy theories, speaking truth to power, I am so happy because I have been sincere. You know, maybe part of the reason I'm such a strong critic of deplatforming is I really miss doing Alex Jones bits. And I'm so glad that people are starting to cut together the guy back on YouTube. Look, here he is in his motherfucking shades talking about humanity. And I have to say, I know the guy's a total bullshit artist, but I don't know. Do you guys feel like he's maybe genuinely having a kind of tough time?
Oh, he's 100% having a tough time. I mean, remember we watched this clip a long time ago when that guy, when he was at a bar in Austin and some guy came up and started trying to ask for his
That'll
audience.
be on the Majority Report Best ofs this year.
It's fucking amazing.
Alex Jones now has to talk to that guy. Like he can't leave the bar because he needs all the fans he can get.
He needs it. That's great. See, dialectics. I think deplatforming is a disaster from a long-term strategic perspective. We need to deal with monopolies. We need to nationalize platforms. And dialectically, the fact that deplatforming is destroying Alex Jones is fucking hilarious. That's dialectics. All right, let's watch some Alex Jones. Whoa.
God, I've tried so hard. I just belong to some other age, I guess. You know, humans don't communicate anymore, or they gibber and jabber about stuff that doesn't matter, and then they send a text message and never communicate with anybody about anything of substance. It's spiritual death.
I agree. I don't think he's
No,
wrong.
I get moved by this.
Yeah,
And then I just come to the realization of the trillions of worlds we're going to probably die.
Pause it. Wait a second. Why did you pull this to make fun of? He's talking total sense so far. This is
Probably
not
die.
wrong. Yes.
Everything we did as a species,
Pause
all
it.
of our beauty,
I'm
all
sorry.
of our good.
We are all going to die. And therefore, we should use that mortality as a motivation to be better, to make the most of our time on Earth, to treat each other well, to live to the fullest. That's absolutely true.
No, this is the thing.
Alex Jones is speaking truth.
This is the Alex Jones that really gets me when he starts talking about just like the human potential and just like the growth. He's like, you are your ancestors' DNA moving forward
You
through
are.
history. It's like that shit gets my heart beating.
We are breathing the breath of the Buddha. The same air is circulating from ancient, and I'm not being at all sarcastic here. We should all get up, reflect everything in the morning, every day when we wake up, that we will be dead fairly soon, and ask ourselves how we want to be while we're here. It's actually a great practice. Okay, back to Alex.
And all of our beauty and all of our goodness will just fail. And we're going to go down the tubes because a bunch of inbred child molesters in Hollywood.
All right, pause it. Now I can see why you guys wanted to pull this clip. Okay, we're taking a pretty abrupt turn here.
Tubes because a bunch of inbred child molesters in Hollywood had some psychotic dream that they wanted to kill everybody. You know, humanity just has to fall. Civilization has to fall. It just has to go down. And you know it's going to go down, too. And I just have been a fool trying to prop it up. It's just at a certain point, you're like, God Almighty, this is what death looks like. This is what laziness looks like. No one has the instinct or the will to execute anything real. They only execute failure. I want to be loved by CNN even though I don't watch it. We have totally legal censorship going on. We have them bragging about it. We have them dead to rights. No one will attack. No one wants to do it. Never took action when all the tools were right there in our hands because we weren't meant to. We couldn't do it. We didn't want it. I give my children fish oil every day. They love it. It's really good for them.
Oh my God. Dad did that video. That's brilliant. Oh, we got to shout this person out. Let's go subscribe. Who is that? Joe Rogan. Oh my God. We can't just. Just give me 2 seconds.
I mean, I remember Faces of Death. I remember I couldn't even finish it. I was so scared.
Yeah.
Do you ever see?
I've seen them all.
You've seen them all.
Remember the one when they tied the dude between two trucks and pulled him apart?
He shook a monkey.
Oh, dude.
This looks like a good
We got a
account.
new Vic Berger on the scene. Subscribe. What is it? Ping Trip?
Ping Trip with one is the I in Trip.
Well, from what I've seen, this guy's fucking hilarious.
Hopefully he's not like alt-right or
Yeah, I was
something.
going to say. I just had that image. I was like, yeah, that guy's hilarious. It's turned out it's like a Gab account. No, by all appearances, this is a great account.
He's
here.
on the right beat at least.
Yeah, he's definitely on the right beat. That's hilarious. All right. Now, the final Griscom Economic Minute of the Year. We usually call it, of course, the Griscom Economic Soliloquy, because it is most certainly not a minute. David, what's in store? You got anything positive for him as we sign off the new year?
I actually do. Let me
Okay,
hit.
good
Let me
stuff.
hit the first two up front, and then we'll hit the positive.
Okay.
I guess the other two aren't too negative, but it's so yeah. So rate increases happened, and everyone's freaking out. So 2019 is probably gonna be a shit show on the stock market and stuff like that.
Well, and also a government shutdown might be happening as well.
Exactly,
Which would also
and
be
it's just like
yeah.
just like a lot of volatility, and it really very much looks like a lot of the stuff that's been used to prop up the market is really just going to start collapsing. But just some interesting things that I saw, while surfing through the papers. One, India overtook the United Kingdom this year as the 5th largest economy by GDP. So that's pretty significant.
That was
actually.
coming for a while.
Yeah, UK's down to 7 now.
Yep.
So now, India is very much not only a rising power, but one of the largest economies in the world, which is something that's a huge shift, obviously, historically. But back to the UK, Uber workers actually won a very huge victory in the UK recently. Court of Appeals ruled that, in fact, Uber drivers do work for Uber. They are not just self-employed drivers who use, and their argument's so funny. It's like, that they use Uber to coordinate between riders.
No, their argument is that Uber's a platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
It's just it coordinates between riders and drivers, which is obviously bullshit. But the Court of Appeals ruled against Uber, which up to now it's obviously going to be challenged up to the Supreme Court. But I think this is the 3rd challenge already, so it's really getting up there. Where now Uber might have to be forced to pay minimum wage, also labor laws like paid holiday time off, which is great, and also it seems like the UK judicial system has actually really been clamping down on a lot of these new services that try not to pay people and try to classify everyone as self-employed so they don't have to pay benefits, which is really fucking awesome. And I hope that we start to do stuff like that in the United States.
Fucking A.
It's probably because of the strength of like the black cab industry, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of.
Because that's really,
part
they're
of it.
really like entrenched there. Like the knowledge, it's called. You have to, in order to be a cab driver in London, you have to memorize every single street, and that's not easy in London because those streets are not like grid-like. It's like St. Albans Grove and stuff like that.
Right. There's a group here. The name's escaping me, but they're sort of like information age workers connected with DSA that is looking to do work fighting against this Amazon travesty. So there's a lot of potential areas of resistance in unionizing and reversing this predatory gig economy from companies like Uber, and also reintroducing friction into the supply chain. Frictionless supply chain is a disaster for the environment and for people.
Yeah, no, and it's something that it's just like when we realize the transportation problems that we have in major cities, and we realize that we're just outsourcing it to fucking Uber. It's just,
and the
it's really
studies are
such a
coming in.
failure.
And the studies are coming in. It causes more congestion. It causes more pollution.
Mm-hmm.
That's now objectively, quantifiably established.
I remember when they were selling it as like this is going to solve all those problems.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird that they wouldn't be up forthright and honest about that.
Yeah, it's surprising that they aren't highlighting the data. Yeah, shocking. I thought they were all. I thought it was a little bit knowledge economy. I thought it was a knowledge.
So we'll just competition our way out of climate change with giving more demand for vehicle rides.
I'm hoping in 2019 we get to see a few more of those people taking down a few more pegs because they spent too fucking much. And these goddamn scooters.
Man, seeing those New York council members just ruthlessly tear into the Amazon lawyers.
Beautiful.
Like that needs. I want an entire 24-hour network of just that.
Beautiful.
Dynamic.
And whoever that city councilor is should be setting his sights.
Oh yeah, and we
on
haven't talked about
governorship.
this, but there's a huge expansion of Google in New York City too. Have you guys covered that or talked about that? Yeah, it's been sort of under the radar, but like a huge expansion in the campus. It's going to be in Manhattan,
Right.
Not in Queens, but it's a massive. It's like a massive investment in New York City. So very much there is now an effort to sort of transform New York City into the Silicon Valley of the East. Which fuck that idea, by the way. It's New York
Oh my
City, man.
God.
Like
Fuck you.
New York
How many
City's not the
people-
of anything. It's its own fucking place.
Yeah. Disgusting. All right, Griscom, perfect. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, beautiful. All right, let's take a few Discord questions and then play a few clips. Maybe get to another call or two. A segment idea from Congressional Baseball fan. Bases loaded. Everything's on the line. It's 3-0 with two with 2 outs in the top of the ninth. Time to get to the final out. Who do you want on first, second, and third? Who do you want to strike out at the plate? We can't play that game, but it's a funny concept. Comment from Lauren. Happy New Year to Left is Best Family. Can't wait to see everyone in February. It's going to be great. Schafford Lewis Mallory. Michael, this is sort of tangential, but the Russell Brand clip made me think of it. But what are your thoughts on Adam Curtis? I'm really intrigued by his critique of the new left and the broader failure of the left to deal with capital in the 1970s as he sees it, and a retreat to individualism, process-oriented politics. Adam Curtis is a frequent guest and under the skin for context. I think Adam Curtis is great.
Yeah, we were meant to have him on, but I don't. It fell.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but we should try. Actually, in fact, we should get him for TMBS. I'm a big Adam Curtis fan. K-State Nate. Michael, have you seen that Derek Fisher has... Yeah, we talked about that. The Derek Fisher story with the predatory lending. We wanted to just play, first of all, just to reaffirm everything. With regards to Rojava and the Kurds, it's incredibly important to have left solidarity, to think strategically, to not be one-dimensional. And, of course, also the U.S. has a horrific global body toll. And here is the fucking airheaded jackass that presides over the most powerful machinery of death in the history of the species.
We've been fighting for a long time in Syria. I've been president for almost 2 years, and we've really stepped it up. And we have won against ISIS. We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home. I get very saddened when I have to write letters or call parents or wives or husbands of soldiers who have been killed fighting for our country. It's a great honor. We cherish them, but it's heartbreaking. There's no question about it. It's heartbreaking. Now we've won. It's time to come back. They're getting ready. You're going to see them soon. These are great American heroes. These are great heroes of the world because they fought for us. But they've killed ISIS, who hurts the world. And we're proud to have done it. And I'll tell you, they're up there looking down on us. And there is nobody happier or more proud of their families to put them in a position
Definitely nobody
where
happier
they've done
than a killed
such
young
good
man or
for
woman
so many
who
people.
fought overseas in
So
an
our
unnecessary
boys, our young women, our men, they're all coming back. And they're coming back now. We won. And that's the way we want it. And that's the way they want it.
Like that's top fucking notch right there.
Oh yeah, it's top notch.
Bringing
This
our boys
fucking
home,
airhead
our
is
young
friend.
girls. Bringing our boys, our young girls, and our men home. And you're going to love them. You're going to see them as great soldiers. Look at these great soldiers coming back. Look at them.
Some of them didn't come back, and they're watching.
Those are even
from up
better.
there.
The people that didn't come back, they're the ones that are the most happy.
They're the happiest. They're the
most
happiest
happy
parents.
because-
And
yep.
they actually wanted us to beat ISIS.
Yeah, they wanted us to beat ISIS, and that's exactly how
Who's
it played
doing
out.
bad things to the world.
Because they were doing bad things to the world in a big way. Yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck Donald Trump. That motherfucker, that trust fund baby, scumbag, airhead, militarist, corrupt, racist, misogynist piece of garbage is the one who, with this whole machinery that he has at his disposal, the Republican Party, ICE, is torturing the family of that man that called in the beginning of this show. Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Donald Trump. And if you support him now and for these reasons, fuck you too. You're calling from a 720 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brooksy. It's Bertolt Mecht. Long time no chat. Calling from Colorado.
How's it going, my friend?
Oh, it's going good. But, I mean, you did just tell me to fuck off, what with my blatant support of Trump for all of the exact aforementioned reasons.
Right.
I'm a huge, whatever. Yeah, just calling because it's, last of the year. Figured I'd check in, say hello to the whole crew.
Thanks for calling.
Wish everyone happy holidays.
Much appreciated.
When there's more time, I'll call in and describe what I was doing with the last few months of my life. I actually was managing a campaign out in Massachusetts.
Oh,
which was
awesome.
Really weird.
Okay. Sounds like the beginning of a Hunter S. Thompson book.
Well, I mean, if I had any talent, maybe that's what I'd do, but...
Really weird.
Yeah. So,
Play it again.
Anyway, I just wanted to call in, let everyone know that, I've enjoyed all the shows, even though I've been completely absent. And also that the Nuggets are for real. And I wanted to get that in the first part, but it's fine. Let it slide.
Much appreciated, brother. We look forward to talking to you a lot more in the new year. Thanks, man.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Really weird.
Have a good one. Really weird. All right. We also
the only time in James Comey's life where he's been relatable. All
right. Actually, let's play. We'll take one last phone call. Last call of the year. You're calling from a 734 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
This is Jack from Detroit.
Hey, what's going on, Jack?
So, hey. So, I mean, there's something I was thinking of regarding how kind of immigration is treated and, like, what are the kind of material kind of, what are the, like, we don't just have closed borders and we don't have these kind of things for, what are the kind of capitalist and economic kind of motivations for kind of, and I think when you say things like engineering the electorate, and I think there's something to that, but I think, I don't know, when you kind of talk to kind of people who, the kind of fears of the demographic replacement and things like, they're taking our jobs, and like you kind of look into that. I think, I think it actually ties a lot into the foreign. I think it's not even that people don't understand what we do to kind of these places that these people are coming from. I think there's an intuitive understanding on some level as to like we've actually destroyed these countries, and like they're coming for us almost. Like they hate America because it's the same way that we feel about Muslims.
I think, I hear what you're saying. I think mainly, look, to the extent to which now I think you got to look at most of these policies, to the extent there's like a quote unquote rational reason, has to do with making sure that the electorate doesn't change. I do think that that's a very significant part of it, and you think you have to synchronize it with both the conspiracy theories about the electorate and voter fraud and all those lies, because then that loops directly with the whole new wave of like gutting the Voting Rights Act and voter suppression and reversing democracy in places like Wisconsin and Michigan. And then if you go back to the 90s and things that Clinton signed into law, there's definitely research, and if there's no doubt, if you criminalize a migrant population, it will drive down everybody's wages, in fact. And also,
right,
it's very clear, this is another thing, just a final thing. It's like, look, I get annoyed because I think, yes, in the long utopian term, or maybe even in a shorter term with innovative ideas like a social union with Latin America and the United States or the Caribbean, Canada, or a NAFTA that was built on open borders and actual bonds versus corporate exploitation. But for the foreseeable future, there's going to be borders. So that's reality. And so the debate is not between socialists who want open borders. That's not in the political table right now. The debate is between people who want demilitarized, humane, and internationally legally compliant borders versus pure racism and barbarism. That's it. And and libertarians who talk about open borders don't mean that, because you need to have highly bureaucratized processes to control labor and even capital, in fact. Because global international trade regimes are not deregulated. They're highly regulated. They just so happen to be regulated on behalf of pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, and so on. Anyways, man, I appreciate the call. Have a great new year. Thank you so much. We're going to do a little trip here down memory lane. Maybe what we should do is we should play this and then see if we could find something slightly positive to leave them on. Let's do the crying and then let's find something positive. All right. But we wanted to do a little memoir because this is last of the year, and we've had a lot of fun with this. And this is
this is still maybe the funniest named video on. It's called Jordan Peterson crying about individualism.
All right, so enjoy it. This is the premier intellect, apparently, of today's world, crying.
A close reading of 20th century history indicates, as nothing else can, the horrors that accompany loss of faith in the idea of the individual. It is only the individual, after all, who suffers. The group does not suffer.
Blink. There it is.
Only those who compose it. Thus, the reality of the individual must be regarded as primary. If suffering is to be regarded seriously, without such regard, there can be no motivation to reduce suffering and therefore no respite. Instead, the production of individual suffering can and has and will be again rationalized and justified for its supposed benefits for the future.
Oh my God, this motherfucker.
And the group.
Do you think he painted that mural?
Oh. That's probably one of his dumb fans. Oh, look at this I got in the mail. It's 8 by 10 feet.
Oh,
I'm going to do much for the clutter in my room.
It's just amazing because it's like this motherfucker could look at what's happening to Palestinians. There are so many examples in the world of just robust human suffering. The little girl that ICE was just responsible for her death. And he's having this bizarre meltdown in his study about Solzhenitsyn. That really
he's
exemplifies
brought on
everything.
Himself. That's the wildest thing for me, right? He's not reacting to something. He's just slowly ruminating.
I'm winding myself up.
I'm winding myself up.
It's so perfect that he did the prologue or preface for the Solzhenitsyn, the new edition of the Gulag Archipelago. Not that I haven't finished Gulag Archipelago. I started it and I kind of got the point. But he's the perfect representative of the guy who was reading Solzhenitsyn through the 80s and 90s as America was becoming the world's #1 carceral state.
Right. Everybody else, right, exactly. Exactly. Solzhenitsyn.
The real problem is that they were oppressing capitalists, not black people.
Yeah, I mean, thing is I don't think Kareem ever wrote anything like Archipelago. So think
Kareem's a
about
good
it.
writer, though.
In a certain sense. So I just gave you that. I just texted you, Matt. Let's play that clip of that Lula ad for the positive end to the year. Man. Of course, we've been and continue to be struggling to free Lula. He's one of the heroes of this show. I think by this point, actually, we've done a pretty good job, I think, of demonstrating why this, like, his political imprisonment actually has massive implications for all of us. Of course, our friends in Brazil, but really for all of us. If you start 1 minute into the ad, I texted you.
You texted me the time code, but not.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Here it is. I was multitasking.
Man, I can't believe 2018's done. Feels
I can't believe it's done either.
I think we're about to have a lot of fun next year listening to everyone fucking bitch about Joe Biden.
Oh, Jesus. All right, guys. Actually, really quick while you set that up. Are Joe Biden, let's go from worst to best. Is Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, are they both running for president? Or is one of them running for president? Or is neither of them running for president? Taking the worst of the field and the best of the field.
Oh, Biden's definitely running.
Biden's running.
I'm pretty confident Bernie's going to run too. I just feel like you don't start a new Progressive International or whatever he's up to, and not run for president as well.
I'm gonna be chairman. That's why.
Be chairman of the fucking house. All right. So that's
Dude, what a trajectory, by the way, if Bernie becomes the new leader of the Comintern. From just like a random mayor of Burlington, Vermont. To
started as a mayor of Burlington, and now I fucking run everything. I'm trying to find, because this quote we're going to play with Lula, he's speaking in Portuguese, but he's quoting Che about the inevitability of spring, but I cannot find this quote. Okay, so you think Bernie and Biden are both in. Matt? Bernie and Biden, they both in?
Biden definitely. Bernie, I think Bernie depends on events. Okay. But I think Elizabeth Warren stumbling made me think Bernie was a lot more likely to run. I mean, my gut says he runs. I don't know how long he stays in it.
Okay, I think that Bernie Sanders is running, and I think he'll go very far. Obviously, I'm not sure if he'll win, but Bernie Sanders is going to run, and I don't think Joe Biden's going to run. I can give you some positive prediction for the new year. I actually don't think Joe Biden's going to run. All right, this was an ad. Yesterday, there was actually a motion. Literally what happened yesterday, and I didn't even cover this on this because I talked about it in the majority report, but just briefly, one Supreme Court justice instituted a ruling that said that all prisoners, political-related prisoners, should be freed from jail while they exhaust their appeal process, which is like the type of ruling that you're like, wait, that wasn't already the case? That's shocking. That would have meant that Lula was released immediately. At the same time, the Army High Command held an emergency meeting about it, and another member of the Supreme Court blocked the decision and essentially just said, well, it isn't constitutional now, but we have to figure out a constitutional way of keeping him in jail. This guy's a political prisoner. And the collapse and the corruption of the judiciary and the military interference and the destruction of him on behalf of the United States because of things like privatizing Petrobras is horrific. It's a crime. It echoes the worst of our history. And I'm proud of the role that our community's been playing in supporting freeing him and fuller solidarity with Brazil and, of course, all places that are. At the end of the interview with Valeska Martins, she said, basically, she's like, please, your government has to stop doing this, and thanked us, for the role we're playing, whether it be in Latin America, Africa, or the Middle East. So this is a clip from an ad that ran in the summer. This is, of course, when they were still campaigning before the Supreme Court in a illegal, fraudulent, horrific move, undemocratic move, barred Lula from running. Lula would have won.
poderosos podem matar uma, duas ou três rosas, mas jamais conseguirão deter a chegada da primavera.
That is the best voice. Lula Livre, everybody. It's Che's quote. You can stop. You can't stop spring and the flowers from blooming. Everybody, I appreciate all of you. You're all great. I appreciate the whole team immensely. Thanks, guys. It's amazing. I think we're really pulling together a lot that we can be proud of, and excited to do a hell of a lot more. On this Sunday, if you haven't yet, this we needed to make public as well as for patrons, the live stream on Rojava with Gene Bajlan, because it's huge and it's breaking and it's important. And then the following Sunday, Samuel Moyne, Not Enough, Human Rights in the Age of Inequality. Fascinating conversation. And then in the new year, we're back. Thanks, everybody. Left is best. Peace and love.